talking about the agenda for this very session. As I have mentioned, we will be testing RESTful APIs with Hoppscotch HTTP client. We will start with some background and some history for APIs and REST. Moving on to, we will define what are RESTful APIs, and then we will talk about why I prefer Hoppscotch over other HTTP clients. And then we'll jump into the hands-on part, the practical part, where we'll be testing our APIs by hitting some Node.js server which is deployed somewhere around the world, right? So without wasting any further time, let's get started. So my dear friends, web dev, so developer folks in somewhere before 2000 or before REST, when there was no RESTful APIs, they used to use a SOAP lot. They used to work with SOAP APIs. So what is SOAP API? SOAP is an XML-based messaging protocol used for exchanging data, exchanging information between the computers or devices, applications, etc. All right. So SOAP was only limited to XML formats. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol, which was not at all simple to use or to work with or to handle or maintain. So if you ask me this question personally, I really don't know, because I have started web dev in 2020, and when I started, all the courses, books, blogs, articles which I referred to, all were with RESTful APIs, and I never went on using SOAP practically. And then I also started working on microservices architecture, and let me tell you guys, RESTful APIs is like the soul for microservice architecture, right? So I have never used SOAP, but I have read all over the web that SOAP was not at all easy to use, right? So why then in 2000, Roy Fielding, along with his team, introduced the term REST. So what is REST? REST stands for Representational State Transfer, right? So REST stands for Representational State Transfer, and how it is better than SOAP. So to answer that question, as we discussed earlier, SOAP was only limited to XML formats, but in case of REST, REST can work with XML. REST works with JSON, which is JavaScript object notation, which is like universal standard for messaging or exchange of data. Right. REST works with plain text, REST works with HTML, and etc. So this is how powerful and how easy it is to work with REST comparing to SOAP. Right. API stands for Application Programming Interface. And now I understand these three big terms feels like bodyline bouncer on very first ball. So calm down, relax. We'll do some analogy part, because analogy is the most important part during the learning process, right? So APIs are like magic. APIs are like prayers. You wish, you ask through them. So APIs are like bonds in the Harry Potter series. Trust me, APIs are the most relatable element on this planet. APIs are like bonds in the Harry Potter series, like the Hermione takes her wand, uses her spell, Wingardium Leviosa or something, and things start flying. In the same way, instead of taking wand, you take Hoppscotch, you take Postman, you take Axios, Fetch, etc. Instead of using spell, you use URL for that very particular server, you use request method, you use some additional data, body data for that data, and instead of giving way to your wand, you press the send button, right? So now this is the most beautiful analogy ever made on APIs, I guess. When you're working with a very low-end laptop, like just 4 gigs of RAM, and you're doing web development, then it's like having Chrome running on it with some 1,000 tabs for 1,000 tabs with just error message copied and pasted, and rest 1,000 tabs are running with Stack Overflow. You can just imagine this situation of my laptop, right? So at that state, for me, it was not possible to have another complete different app for testing APIs. So here I came across Hoppscotch, which made me to use just one more tab where I can use Hoppscotch on Chrome itself, right? I am not supposed to use an different Electron app for testing APIs. Now, let me talk about something about Postman. Postman is the greatest app for API testing. It is complete web API development suite. I totally agree. But using Postman on low-end PC, for me, it was not very suitable for that time. So Hoppscotch comes with the same features which comes with Postman. Just few are less, like the runners and the test automation part. Let's go through some of the various features of Hoppscotch here. So as you can see, this is Hoppscotch. I will share the link. I will drop in the chat section. So you can use this link to go to Hoppscotch, right? And this is Hoppscotch Hoppscotch is not limited only for REST APIs testing. It is also for GraphQL queries. It is also for real time, and at the same time we can document our APIs and share them. So it comes with bunch of features which will be going throughout this session, right? So Hoppscotch also comes with collections, which we'll be talking about later part in this session. It comes with environments. So let's start working on Hoppscotch, right? So before starting working practically on testing your APIs, we will go to documentations of Hoppscotch. I will just share the link for documentation part as well. So if you ask me, let me tell you, my dear friends, that documentations are the best material, are the best resources if you want to learn something, some stack or tool. No tutorial, no course, no book, no article will help you the way documentations can, because documentations are the only place which have everything about that particular stack or tool. So trust me, even Linus Thomas can't teach you Hoppscotch the way Hoppscotch documentation can. Trust me. Now you guys would be asking, who is Linus Thomas? So he is the creator of Hoppscotch. He is the person who has who has built this Hoppscotch from scratch. So now you guys would be asking, if the creator of this very tool can't teach us, so why the hell, who the hell you are? Why we are attending this session, right? So I have answer for that question as well. Because you can't directly go to the documentation part, because you need to know some basic workarounds for that very particular tool. When you are comfortable with that basic workarounds for that particular tool, then you can go to documentation to learn the under the hood parts, behind the scene parts, so that you can optimize that particular tool at its best. Share one URL endpoint so that you can use along with me. I will share, first of all, I will share the article link. And then now the URL endpoint. I have dropped this in the chat section. You can copy this URL and start testing APIs with me. Just take that API endpoint and paste it in the URL box. Oops. Right. So now we will make our first ever GET request over here. Just press on the send button. So just paste the URL in your URL box and press the send button. As you can here see, we have received 200 status and the message with hi there. All right. So now we will use our own article as reference to work with the very API testing. We will go to collections. So what are collections in Hoppscotch? So collections are nothing but where you will group together all the APIs with one single endpoint. So if you're testing API endpoint for one web server, you will group together all the APIs of that very particular server in a well-mannered way using collections. And how do we do that? Let's see. Just click on new button after clicking on collections, and then we can name our collection with anything we want. So we will name it user API, user APIs, right? So save button, and we have successfully created our collection. Now we will save our API request to user APIs collection. And how do we do that? By just clicking on save button, and we'll name it as first request, and then we will save it to user APIs collection by clicking on it. Then just press save button. That's it. And now, as you can see, we are having here our first request in user APIs collections, right? So now we will use another API endpoint, and that is just add users at the end of the URL. And once you're done with that, press the send button. It feels like the route is protected with some authentication. So we are having some authentication error over here. So it says token is required. So for that, we need to create an user first. So how do we do that? Let's change our request to post request, and go to body section over here and select it as application JSON. It's already selected as application JSON in my part. Please check it is application JSON. And in raw request body, let's write some JavaScript object notation over here. It starts with curly braces and then quotes and username. We keep username as Sankalp 123 and comma, quotes again, password. We take password something like I play GTA 5, alright. And with post request HTTP request method, let's press the send button. And as you can see, we have created our user successfully, right? So we have received 201 status, and result is we have ID for our user, username Sankalp123, and we're having an hashed password which was I play GTA 5, right? So now with the same request body, we will log in to generate auth tokens which we can use later to test the protected routes, right? So we will just replace, before that actually we will save the route, right? So we will save this, we'll click on the drop down button and we'll click on save as, and then we will name it as user registration. Okay, and now we will select the collection for it. So that is user APIs, and just click on save button. And we have successfully saved our second route over here, as you can see. And now next we will go to login route. Just replace users in the URL box with login, LOGIN. And now with the same username and password, we will click on send button with post request method to generate an auth token. And as you can see, we have successfully generated auth token for our user, right? So we have logged in successfully. Status is 200, username is Sankalp123 once again, and our hash password for I play GTA 5 3. So let's copy this auth token, and then we'll go to authorization. Before that, sorry, once again we will save this route too by clicking on drop down button and clicking on save as button, and we'll name it user login route. Now we will click user APIs collections once again and save button once more, right? So now we have saved 3 routes for us. That one is first request, which we received hi there message. Second one was post request for user registration with user, and then third one is login, user login route, right? So now we will copy the token and we'll click on the authorization tab And here, as you can see, there we have authorization type is equal to none. We will change it to bearer token because we are using bearer token over here, and we'll paste the copied token over here, and that's it. Now we will go back to the users route, where first we tried to fetch users and where we received 401 status code with authentication error, right? So again, replace login with users and post request method to get request method. With that, now we will click on send button to check if our token works successfully or not, because we have added bearer token over here, as you can see. Let's click on the send button. And as you can see, previously we received 401 authentication error, but now we are having a complete list of users with this route. So which states that we have successfully added authentication, and we can access the user's data when we are logged in, right? So now we will try to mess up the token and check if it still works or not. Just add some letters in the token. I'll just do S and will resend the request, and it again, see, we received error, authentication error, invalid token. So let's undo it and resend the request, and now we are again having the list of complete list of users, right? So now we will what we will be doing is we'll just copy the ID of one of the users. So I will go with the very first user over here. I will copy ID for it, and then I will change the request method to put request, right? So now we are using put request. So let me tell you one another important part, because most of the developers are really confused between put and patch. So this is put and this is patch. So let me tell you what is put and what is patch. So when we have a specific document, right? So in this document, in this data, there are many sub data. Like one is ID, one is username, and password, and the hyphen v, right? So when we use put method, we are completely changing that document. But when we are using patch method, which is here, we are changing only the partial data of that very document. So I hope this makes very clear the difference between the put and patch HTTP request method, right? So here we are using put request method, and in URL box we'll add the copied ID over here. Just copy the ID and add another slash and just paste the copied ID over here. And now we will go to the body, and over here we'll change username. Sorry, we'll just change the username, not password, because we don't want to change the password. We are testing the put API route. So we the username for this very ID was Sanky, and now we will change it to Sankalp Swami. And now we will send the request to put API route. And actually, I think we have used a wrong ID, I guess. Let's go back to users. And we copy ID once again, and we'll paste it in the URL box using put request method, and we are having our username in request data, and we'll send again. We are receiving 400 request method. So we just go to the article and let's check where are we getting wrong. And as now you can see, we have got the get request for that very particular ID. So the get request for that particular ID is working. And now we will move towards the environment part. So these are environments. So what are environments in Hoppscotch? So when we are developing a web application, we have different types of environments, different types of phases for application, right? So it could be development phase, it could be staging phase. So according to our phase, we can create environments, and as you can see, our URL box feels very jammed, right? So we can create some variables which we can use in our URL box. So let's create one new environment over here, and let's name it staging. Save it, and click on staging environment, and we will create a new variable, and we will name it base URL. Just a second, we'll copy the URL first. So we will copy the complete URL over here, and we'll go again to staging environment. We'll add new variable, and we'll name it base URL. Okay. So now we have created a variable called base URL. So now we will be using that variable in our environment. So first select environment to staging, and now we can replace the complete URL with the variable which we have just created. How do we do that? With the bracket syntax. And we'll add the variable over here. So now we can see we are getting red color over here. We get that because it says we don't have any variable with DAS, but if we add the correct variable, we will get the blue color, as you can see. Right. So now we will make another get request to the same API endpoint to check if we get the same request and to check if the variable is working or not. So let's send the request. And yeah, as you can see, the base URL is working, and we have received the same data which we received with the original API endpoint. Right. We will start testing the put request endpoint again. So let's go to Hoppscotch, and we have put request method over here. We have the user ID which we copied earlier, and the username and the data for it in the request raw request body with content type as application JSON, because we are using JavaScript object notation over here. Right. So let's change username to Sankalp Swami again, and send the put request method to the Node.js server. It's taking a bit to load. Sorry, some slight network connectivity issues from my side. And I think we have successfully edited the document. So let's check it by using the get request for that particular ID. So let's send button. Let's press the send button again. And as you can see, now we are having the same document over here for username as it is Sankalp Swami. So let's go to delete method, and with the same user ID, we'll just send request. Check if everything works well or not. It's loading, and as you can see, I think we have deleted the user successfully. So let's recheck it by using the get request method for the same user ID. Right. So let's use the get method on the user ID. And as you can see, status is 200, but result is null as we have deleted the user successfully. And now we are having just 3 over here. So first of all, what we'll be doing is we'll go into the tests tab section. We'll clear everything, and now we'll go to the very basic URL which we had, that is users. Let's check if the users route is working well. So make one get request method to the user route, right? So now we are getting the list of a bunch of the users successfully. So let's write some tests for the users route, right? So now there are some pre-written tests for Hoppscotch. So that's an added perk. We are having some pre-written tests over here. So what we are supposed to do is to just go and click on one of the pre-written tests. So first of all is response status code is 200. And as you can see, our API endpoint status code is also 200. So this test suits well for our API endpoint. So let's click on it. And as you can see, we get the test over here in the JavaScript editor, right? So it is PW, which is nothing but syntax for writing test cases for Hoppscotch. Pw.test, and this is the name for that particular function. And here we write the function for the code, that is pw.expect that response status code to be 200. So let's resend the request with written test cases, right? So press the send button again. And now, as we can see, we are having one blue small dot around by the side of the test results. So let's click on test results, and as you can see, there is one successful out of one test, expected 200 to be 200. So we have successfully added one test case for our user route. So now we will do it same with the user registration too. So we'll change our request method to post, and instead of 200 we will change it to 201, and here at the same time we'll change it to 201, because here we are adding in data to the MongoDB, to the Node.js server. So it will respond with 201 status code. So we want to make sure that our response status code is 201, right? So we'll go to body, and we'll add one more data, that is password, because we're adding a new user, right? So we'll add password field and a password for it. It can be anything. So yeah, it will be anything. So we'll change the username so that we don't create any duplicate user. We'll make it Sankalp 321 now, and with post request method on the same user's route, we'll add an user now. Let's click on send button. So as you can see, the API endpoint is working. So now we will check the test results, and as you can see, expected 201 to be 201, right? So now we are successfully added test cases for our API endpoints, and now I want you guys to add test cases for all the API endpoints which we have tested today, so that you get a great practice on by using the test cases for your own API endpoints, right?